My guest this week is Frank Conniff. Frank is a writer, comedian, and producer, best known for his work on Mystery Science Theater 3000, where he played TV's Frank. Frank also wrote and acted in Sabrina the Teenage Witch, wrote for Invader Zim, and for the last 10 years joined his former MST3K co-star Trace Bailu, who originally played Dr. Clayton Forrester, with The Mads Are Back, touring and performing and doing live streams. He's also the author of over 10 books with such titles as Action-Packed Apartments, You're Ruining the Dystopia for Everyone, and How to Write Cheesy Movies. His latest audiobook, 25 Mystery Science Theater 3000 Films That Changed My Life in No Way Whatsoever, is out now via Dumb Industries. And it is my great pleasure to welcome the Revolutions Per Movie, Frank Conniff. Hi, Frank.
Hey, hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you are in rare air. You are one of the few Revolution Per Movie guests that I've had that is part of the Three Generations Club, where my parents, my family, and my daughter all loved your work.
Oh, wow.
The only other person who's gotten that is David Pasquesi of Strangers with Candy, who came on. So congratulations
Thank you. That's good company to be in.
There's so much to talk to you about. I really kind of wanted to find out a little bit more because I didn't know a lot about how you came about in the Minnesota comedy scene and how you connected with the MST3K people. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I moved to Minneapolis in 1985. I was born and raised in New York City. And in 1985, I was actually asked to leave New York very lovingly by my family because they held a intervention for me because I had a drug and alcohol problem, as happens, and so I was sent to a rehab place in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, called Twin Town. So I went there for a month. This would be the fall of 1985. And then I was in a halfway house for 3 months after that, and then it was just a very practical, sensible idea on my part to just stay in Minneapolis after I got out of being institutionalized, because New York was where I'd gotten into all the trouble, all the bars and
Sure.
stuff I associated with my own addiction was back there, and I liked Minneapolis right away, and so I just stayed there. And then I started doing comedy in around the spring of '86, and there was a great stand-up scene. This was the height of the '80s comedy club boom, and
Sure.
there was a great comedy scene there, and I met all of the people that I would eventually work with on Mystery Science Theater. I met Mike Nelson, who I met him at an open mic. I met his future wife, Bridget Jones, also at an open mic. I met Trace Bailu doing comedy around town, and I met Joel Hodgson, who had kind of quit the business. He was in LA. He was like the hottest thing in stand-up comedy, and he didn't like LA, and he
Right.
moved back to Minneapolis. So I met him too. And then a couple years later, they started doing Mystery Science Theater on a UHF channel. I guess it was a UHF channel.
Yeah.
And then it got picked up by the Comedy Channel, as Comedy Central was known back then. And then another friend of mine that I had met on the stand-up scene, Josh Weinstein, known to people publicly as J. Elvis Weinstein, he left the show and they needed a replacement, and they just hired me. So it was just all fortuitous and lucky, and I still can't believe my good luck that all that happened.
Yeah, it's so funny to think about because, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is such a cultural touchstone. But when you came in season 2, right?
Yeah.
Did it have an impact yet culturally, do you feel like? Or did you feel like it was still playing to like a select audience?
It was very underground at that point, mainly because, People don't remember, but cable TV was kind of underground back then. The Comedy Channel or Comedy Central, there were a lot of places that just places like New York City that didn't have it. You know, it wasn't on their cable system, and we actually went to someone's house. The only person we knew who had cable to watch the premiere of my season that I was on. So it just wasn't. It was, cable TV back then was it was sort of like an off Broadway TV. It was like not the mainstream, and so we weren't quite the mainstream. Um, and we never really became totally the mainstream, but just little by little we picked up fans, and I think fans really liked the fact that they found our show not through hype or a promotional tsunami or anything like that. They just found it themselves, and I think people, that's given people a real connection to it, and it's just, and of course the irony is, once I left the show in like 95, and then the show went off the air I think in 98, and it became much bigger, that thanks to the internet,
Absolutely.
than it ever was when it was in production, and so our following from it has just grown and continues to grow, and it's on all kinds of uh, Twitch channel. I'm showing what an old man I am. I don't even know what a lot of this stuff is.
I'll join your club. I'm right there with you. The Twitch
The
kids and
Twitch kids and the Pluto and the whatever it is that the kids watch. They're
yeah,
on
yeah.
like 24/7.
And I remember I was in a recording studio when the producer of our album, this guy Tony Lash, who was in Heat Miser with Elliott Smith,
Uh-huh.
he was obsessed with your show, and he brought in a TV that had a VCR in it, and we were just. It took us so long to make the record because all we were doing is having us introduce Mystery Science Theater to us. And then I had all of a sudden a bag of VHS tapes I was dubbing because I wanted to see
Yeah.
them all. And then that bag went somewhere else. It was really kind of amazing, Frank. It was, in a funny way, like discovering a band
Yeah.
that you're like, wow, only 5 people I know love this, but now they're showing it to other people, and it just was growing.
Yeah, I actually said years ago when we were doing it, because it was my first experience in any kind of television production. I had nothing to compare it to, but I remember saying to Joel that doing this show, it just feels more like being in a band than being like a highly professional TV show, and and we had a thing at the end of the credits at the end of the show that said keep circulating the tapes, because that's how a lot of people found the show, was through
Right.
through videotapes that people shared.
Can you elaborate a bit more about what the flow chart of a production week for one episode would be like? Because you were
Mhm.
in charge of picking the films. Am I wrong?
Yes, I was.
And I remember in the Amazing Colossal episode guide, it kind of broke it down on one page, and it hurt my head. People talk about SNL and like, oh, this, and I'm like, I don't. Yeah, but this is like a feature feature film they're having to watch and break down. Yeah, is there any way you can elaborate on like how the process of making one show might have gone for any given week?
Yeah, it was a very straightforward thing. We would the movie, would have already been picked, and we'd get the rights to it, and um so I think we were doing like 24 episodes a
I
year back
know.
then. This is how old school we were, not like the current like 6 episodes a year, but whatever. Um, so we would watch the movie, spend a whole day watching the movie, riffing the movie. Someone would type in every comment, with a time code, not attributing the comment to any character or anything, just getting it down on paper. Um, and then the next day after that, we would write the sketches. We spend a day doing that. And then the day after that, we'd watch the whole movie again over the course of a day. And then after that, Trace and Joel and Kevin Murphy and Mike, Nelson were very multi-talented people and had other tasks on the show besides writing and performing. Joel and Trace would go off and help build the props and stuff. And Kevin Murphy, that first year, was literally the film editor. He was in the editing room
Right.
um, on those days. And Mike Nelson he'd be composing music, and if we had written lyrics for a song on the sketch day, he would be in his office with his keyboard writing the song to it. And myself and Mary Jo Peel and Paul Chaplin, another writer, our tasks on those days were assigning the lines, taking the scripts, and I would take 20 30 minutes or whatever. Paul would take 30 minutes, Mary Jo would take 30 minutes, and of a separate part of the script, and we'd be assigned the lines. This line is for Crow, this is for Servo, um, and then we'd have a script at the end of that, and then we'd rehearse it and film it, and then go back in the editing room and do like overdubs or correct mistakes or anything like that. So it was
Wow.
a very very straightforward
Oh yeah,
process.
yeah, just like everyone does. What did you know? Like, oh, this is a Crow line.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
you would just have a sense of that,
okay.
you would hear it in your head. You would hear Crow saying it, or you would hear Tom Servo saying it, or Joel. They all had very distinctive kind of personalities.
Yes.
Um, and so that was very easy to just intuitively assign the lines to the character.
Well, and I really loved your and Trace's relationship as the villains in this. When you were on it for your seasons, it just had this. I don't know if it's a Midwestern thing or what. And I know the tonality of it wasn't to be completely evil, but there's just such a gentle roll to the energy of it. Was that just your personalities, or was that a choice for the characters?
Yeah, I think it was our personalities, and I think um, it was something that just came for Trace and I. It just came naturally without us ever discussing it.
Mhm.
We were both of us are long time, Laurel and Hardy fans, Abbott and Costello fans, Marx Brothers fans. So we liked having that kind of vibe in our relationship with each other. The kind of he was, Abbott and his just being evil, and I was Costello and just being bumbling. And that was like that just came very naturally to us. And it just worked out that way. And the Midwest vibe is just that was just because everyone on the show except for me was from the Midwest.
Right.
I can't even describe exactly what it is, what Midwestern humor is, but it really is there on the show for sure.
Were there ever specific films that you just couldn't get anyone to agree on doing that you're like, you're missing this? This is a really amazing thing.
There were a few because I was I would pick the films, I would go through them and pick them out, but then everyone would have to sign off on them.
Right.
I'd and I don't remember specifically, but I know there were some where I would say, I think this will be a good film for us to do, and then like someone like people would maybe be too sick of doing like these low budget things that just didn't move at all, and
Yes.
Mike Nelson would say, no way, for his own mental health, he would reject certain films, and then sometimes there'd just be a big consensus, like, yeah, let's do this, and sometimes it
Yeah.
would be like reluctant, yeah, I guess we're gonna do that one. But anyone had that was the thing in our writers' room. Like anyone had the right to say, if one person said no, I don't want to do that film, then we wouldn't do it. And it was the same way with jokes. If one person said, I don't like that joke, I'm offended by it, um, that was it. It didn't matter. I mean, maybe you might debate it for a minute, but if one person said no, uh, I don't like the vibe of that joke or whatever, and it would just not go in the show, guaranteed.
Right. And then you'd be like, well, it has Doodles Weaver in it, so we are going to push this
Yeah.
through.
Well,
It is amazing to think about the things that did make it. I think Starfighters is one
yeah.
that's about the airplanes, right? And things that just were glacial.
Yeah.
Um, and I just always thought of all of you sitting there having to just familiarize yourself with it, and just in a weird way, I was like, you were having your own sandstorm pain. I was like, I was
Yeah.
always felt like you were doing this for us, for so much joy. But I was like, man, maybe it is kind of painful to do this.
Well, sometimes the pain was very real, and but so it would get to the point where you would forget the basic reality of the situation, which was my job is to watch I'm getting paid to watch television,
Sure,
so
sure.
you can, if you put yourself in that frame of mind and that perspective, you're just going to be positive about the whole thing. But sometimes movies would get they just bog us down, and we get so depressed and hate them so much, which was an unfortunate circumstance, because I really think the show works best when we're not really hating on the film. We're just
Yeah.
we're collaborating with it. They made um uh they made something, and God bless them for making the film. They did all the work. They went out, they had production meetings, they went out to locations, they did a lot of stuff, and we're just adding another layer
Yes.
of jokes to what they did. And I personally think it works best when we're not coming from a hostile place about the movie, when we're just kind of having fun with it. Although, we definitely would fall into that hostility sometimes,
Well, you wouldn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I just saw the Sinister Cinema documentary
Uh-huh.
that Jack Perez made, and the owner of Sinister Cinema is the same way. He'll be talking about a film like Mighty Jack with such reverence, and he's like, I know it's not good, but
Uh-huh.
they made this thing and they worked really hard on it, and everybody in the film is giving it their all. They believe in this thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of endearing, I mean, it takes a lot to finish things.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, to me, the ultimate example is Ed Wood, who, had this undeserved reputation as the worst director of all time. And his films are like, you know, badly acted, badly written, but there's something soulful about them, and there's something really, inspiring about that he went out and made these films, and he made them, and they've lasted forever. People still watch them and still enjoy them.
We're going to talk in a bit about the Young Girls of Rochefort, and I apologize to any listeners with my really bad attempts of saying French names correctly or what. But can a film like that be riffed over? Is that a possibility? Like, in terms of, like, can you find humor in a film that is considered a classic?
Um, yeah, I think it can be done. I know Riff Tracks has done that with films like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and um, you know, they can find things to joke about, and but and they've done really good work with that kind of thing. But my personal preference is I don't want to riff on a movie that's really good.
Yeah.
Um, it's not my preference to do that. The major riff that I come up with when I'm watching a really good movie is, "Shut up, I'm watching this." Like, I don't want to hear anyone. And that also brings me to the fact that people think I might approve of talking in movie theaters. I absolutely do not.
Someone would think that? Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
I have here the Time Tumblers.
Oh, The Time Tumblers, my latest novel.
I don't know you, but just knowing, like, from reading interviews and hearing people that you've worked with talk about what your knowledge of, like, these really small moments that people might know in culture. But I love that in the book, it's like Ronald Reagan's jealous of Fred McMurray's acting career. And I'm like, I think that's probably true. And then,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you have Hollywood Squares host, Peter Marshall going to the 1965 Newport Folk Festival
Hmm.
to do the to break up the Dylan thing, all because you're trying to change human history with the Kill Baby Hitler
Hmm.
project. So, are you just walking down the street and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I know how to combine all these things, or how do you even begin this?
Oh, that's a good question. And thanks for reading the book. I really appreciate that.
Oh no, it's awesome.
Thank you. And I think I think the premise for this book was just kind of germinating inside my head for a long time. And I think it started with just me thinking about the fact, and and things have gotten way more absurd since, but
Yes.
just to me, the idea that that Ronald Reagan, who became president of the United States, was in show business, and I think the notion of this book started with the idea that popped into my head was that if Ronald Reagan had gotten cast in My Three Sons instead of Fred McMurray,
Yes.
for some reason, I don't think that was ever on the table in real life.
Okay.
Probably not. I think that was always going to be a Fred McMurray show.
Uh,
But um, that if he had spent the '60s making a lot of money on a successful TV show, he probably wouldn't have gotten into politics. He wouldn't have run for governor in 1966,
right.
and it never would have happened. I think, and this is a part of Ronald Reagan I sort of relate to, is that of him being in show business, and I just imagining in my head that his kind of era was over. He wasn't at Warner Brothers anymore. He didn't have that steady paycheck, and he needed like a new gig, and politics, public speaking, which it turned out he was really good at. He was a public speaker for GE when he worked on GE Theater, and went around the country giving speeches, and he was really good at it, and that led to him like giving a speech for Barry Goldwater in 1964, and that led to him running for governor, which
Right.
nobody thought he would win. Nobody thought he would win. It was a total upset victory over an incumbent Democrat, Pat Brown. And so, just thinking about how, getting cast in a sitcom could change history,
You're right.
that's where the whole idea of the book, I think, started.
Oh, it feels so now. I mean, I know it came out, just recently, but I I just have to think there has to be a sequel in this or an addendum or something because it just seems like with where we're at now,
Yeah.
like there needs to be a time tumblers too with different needs by
Hmm.
the Abyss Keepers to
Uh,
change some of the historical lines that we're currently dealing with.
yeah, yeah. There would, you know, the Kill Baby Trump project. No, I shouldn't say
Yes.
that, but I didn't mean that. Secret Service, if you're listening, I didn't mean that.
Our guests and the host do not. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I have to ask you, how did you narrow down your perfect Hollywood Squares lineup? Because in it you have Nipsey Russell,
Mhm,
Rosemary, Charo,
mhm,
Marty Allen, Jerry Van Dyke, Paul Lynn, um, Florence Henderson, Charlie Weaver. I'm forgetting one.
mhm.
But like, were you like, this is my dream?
I don't know if I thought of it that way. I think I just had to, I knew that Paul Lynn had to be
Sure.
there, and the people that it was really just the people that I remembered from it. Sharo, of course, who was ubiquitous um, on TV shows like that back then, and Jerry Van Dyke, who I just liked Jerry Van Dyke, and it gave me a chance to do a bunch of have him be very self-deprecating about My
Right.
Mother the Car,
Charlie
so
Weaver. What
yeah,
was
well,
that?
Charlie Weaver was essential, I think,
Yeah.
because I remember him as being on every episode.
Yeah. Yeah, and Marty
And
Allen, I was just like, right, he's on the
yeah,
cover. There he is.
yeah, Marty Allen had to be. I mean, we've Mystery Science Theater, we did more Allen and Rossi jokes than anybody has ever done. And their catchphrase "Hello Dare"
Yeah.
came up frequently
Oh yeah.
on the show.
Oh
So, but it was like stuff I didn't have to put that much thought into it. I was like, these are the people, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I'll put a
And,
link in the show notes to where to get the books as well as your new
oh, thank you.
audio book.
And people, and I have an audiobook of that, and also there is an ebook of it that has Wikipedia links to every obscure reference in the book,
Oh, awesome.
and
That's great.
any sales from that we're going to give a percentage of to Wikipedia, to contribute to Wikipedia.
Oh, that's great, Frank. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. Even I had to look occasionally, but I knew a lot of it. But it
Yeah.
is one of those things where I was starting to be like, well, maybe this is, like, Frank knows something I don't about this. Is it Don? What's his name?
Oh, Don DeFore.
Yeah, Don DeFore.
Yeah.
I was like, I did not know that name, and it's like all of a sudden he's a main character.
Yeah. Well, he was. Well, the thing about the Don DeFore, I know specifically how he ended up in the book is because, first of all, I watched Hazel when I was a kid, which with Shirley Booth, he was on that. And, but I have a very specific memory of the 1980 or 84 Republican convention, although it's the 1980 convention in the book, but, I have a very specific memory of watching that Republican convention on TV and seeing Don DeFore in the crowd, in the audience. And so I knew that he was friends with Ronald Reagan. And so that's just how he
Right.
ended up becoming, the potential agent of his demise. But one thing that I really tried to do in this book too is, except for Ronald Reagan, none of the I think I show respect for every performer that I write about in this book, and I'm not,
Yeah.
like, and the last part of the book involves Jack Webb, who I'm a huge fan of, so I do get a lot of fun out of how anti-hippie and
Yes.
anti-acid he was, and then I have him, not through any fault of his own, tripping his ass off.
Yeah.
But I think I express great respect for him as a talent and as an artist and a producer.
Oh, absolutely. It's done. There's a bit of awe in this book, for these
Oh
people.
yeah. Oh,
You
that's a
know?
good way of putting it. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I get it. As
Mm,
someone who
mm,
had a video store and was like, collecting all this weird stuff. Yeah, I often had love for things that people were like, why are
mhm.
you watching this Iron Butterfly music, film called Musical Mutiny so much? I'm just
Mm,
because I really like this one, like this female lead who never did anything else. Like
mhm.
I just like her performance in
Right,
it,
right.
and I'm like,
Mhm,
it makes my day when I hear it.
mhm.
So
Sure,
yeah.
sure.
So you picked Jacques Demy's 1967 film, The Young Girls of Rochefort. I had seen Umbrellas of Cherbourg when it was done as a reissue, I think
Right,
in
right.
the 2000s, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was, I had not seen any of his films up to that point.
Right.
Um, but like, where did you come across his films?
Oh, well, the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is the more famous of the two, of is more famous than the Young Girls of Rochefort, but I was aware, I had seen, I think I got it on a, like, not to brag, but I think I have it on a Criterion laser disc. Um,
Yes. Flip it
but
over.
yeah, yeah. But I actually, my discovery of the Young Girl of Rochefort is actually, like, for me, it's a great TV watching memory for me, because there's nothing I like more, for watching movies on cable or whatever, than just coming across something without any plans, and then you just start watching it, and then you really get into it. And this was, when I was living in LA. It was 3 in the morning, and Like back then, and it was on either the Sundance Channel or the Independent Film. I think it was on the Sundance Channel. And back then, the Sundance Channel now shows Andy Griffith reruns all day. Nothing wrong with that, and they have commercials,
I
you
didn't even know
know.
it was still around.
Yeah, but back
Wow.
then, or I might be thinking of the Independent Film Channel, which is the same kind of thing. Back then, both of those channels were like Turner Classic Movies. There were no commercials. They just showed movies all day and all night. And so that's where at like 3 in the morning, I just turned on the TV and it was just starting.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what is this? And I think I knew that I had heard of the film. I knew that it was his follow-up to the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, but I really, other than that, I knew nothing about it. I think I knew that it was probably a musical, but and so I just started getting into it, and suddenly I'm hearing like the most beautiful music I've ever heard in my life. I mean, to me, this score is nonstop Legrand, Michel Legrand melodies that are just incredible. The same thing can be said for the Umbrellas of Cherbourg too, you know. But and just the whole vibe of it in the middle of the night, this kind of magical place where people are dancing all over the place, and all of the women are like beautiful, and and I was just loving it. And then like about, you know, then about like 20, 25 minutes in, you're like, what the fuck? Gene Kelly is in this? What is going on here? Gene Kelly is in this, and he's speaking and singing in French.
Yes.
Is this this is some alternate universe that I stepped
It's a
into
book
that
you
I
wrote, Frank.
yeah,
It's a book you wrote
yeah,
called The
that
Time Tumblers.
yeah, that I knew nothing about. And the you know, the town of Rochefort in the movie is really kind of like an alternate universe. It's, you
Yes.
know, and the plot is, you know, it's just kind of like a, you know, romantic comedy plot. It's like, you know, it's like an MGM musical, if but made by it's like if the MGM musicals were part of the French New Wave. Yeah, I'm just saying, I just loved everything about it, and especially the music. I've listened to the soundtrack to death.
Yeah. There's some really great French TV documentaries about the two of them talking about how this was going to be different than
Mm,
Umbrellas. Because, I
right.
mean, Umbrellas is such a tragedy.
Yeah.
And, you know, like the other day I was rewatching it, and the thing that both films have is a color will just transport you. You'll be like, I remember that exact pink in this scene on
Hmm.
this wall that's being painted.
Right,
And
right.
then I remember this orange truck driving by. It's like,
Mhm.
it's got that Jacques Tati thing going for it too,
Yeah.
where it's just hyper saturated colors. And it was also really fun to find out. So Bernard Evian and, oh, what is her name? Who did the costumes? Oh, Jacqueline Moreau.
Hmm.
They all were friends with Jacques Demy in college or university.
Oh,
And
okay.
he was really into making marionettes and miniatures. And which is like, I was like, oh, well, Frank likes, like puppets. So there you go. Um, but they all went to Paris to kind of make it together. And so they'd been working together forever. But what was so cool was she would say, we would take pieces of paper that had the colors on them and be like, okay, this is the two sisters here. There are these two colors. But when she leaves with this color and she bumps into Gene Kelly, can that still work as a visceral color force? Or does it clash or not pop? And so they would work on these things forever. And her partner was the gentleman who did all the design work. So they were kind of having to do this thing like, does the wallpaper lead the fashion or does the fashion lead the wallpaper? And if you haven't seen it, it sounds kind of bonkers what we're talking about, but it is such a transportive type of cinematic experience visually. And then you have that incredible score you're talking about,
Yeah, the combination of all of it is just and the stuff you were just talking about is like you don't I personally I don't think about that stuff much when I'm watching it, but it really has a big impact on your reaction to the film of the place that the film sends you.
Because this is a film that also will drop in like a serial killer,
Yeah, I
like
know
in
that's
the
so
middle. You're
bizarre.
like, and then
Yeah,
like one of the greatest uh dramatizations in a film of showing pretension
uh-huh.
is one of the sisters, well, Catherine Deneuve, walking in to kind of break up with the art gallery owner, and he is shooting a pistol at bags of paint over a canvas and just watching them trip. You're like, oh, that is one of the greatest, like, this guy's an asshole thing
Yeah.
ever. You're like, this guy is untalented. He's just grasping at straws. I was like, that is beautiful.
Yeah, he's very, very petty, the idea that guys like that are in positions of power, which is true, you know, positions of power in art or culture or
Yes.
entertainment or anything, it's just galling, you know, yeah, and he's, you know, he's been dating Catherine Deneuve, and if if you're dating Catherine Deneuve and you're gonna fucking blow that, you know, there's something seriously wrong with you know.
Yeah, there's definitely a part where, rewatching it recently with my wife, I was like, is he the serial killer, do you think? And also the second question I asked her at 2/3 through the film, I was like, is this going to have a happy ending? What do you think? Like, I knew the ending, but it was really fun for her. And she was like, I don't think so. After seeing, Umbrellas,
I love the ending of it, and I feel it's a happy ending. You know, I
Absolutely.
think it's ambiguous, but I love that it's just him getting in the truck. You know, he's been looking for her the whole movie, and
Yeah.
it's just him getting in the truck with her, and then you don't need to see any more than that. You know, they're gonna meet. You know,
My favorite films, Fat City, Five Easy Pieces, are just like, you don't know what's going to happen next. You're like, Jack
right,
Nicholson
right.
has just gotten into a truck and gone away. And you're like, that's writing its own history. And yeah, there's something beautiful about, we don't get to see people connect in it, but they have.
And it also has that like musical comedy logic of,
Yes.
you know, they're both in love. They've never met, but they're totally in love with each other, and they're totally meant to find each because they're the only true love for each other. You know, it's he takes that whole trope and just goes really like he takes that to like another level.
Yes. Yeah. And it was really funny that I saw recently, when you're introduced to the sisters. Well, here, let me back up a little. The first 15 minutes of this film are really like you seen it. Of course, you're gonna stop whatever
Mm,
you're doing. That
right,
that transporter or whatever, that rare type of transportation that is
right.
like lifting up, like all the trucks across this body of water, and kind of the slow waking up of the
Yeah.
truck dancers.
The music starts very slowly and it's just a piano trio at first. Yeah, and then it never stops after that, you know.
No, and it's
Yeah.
to me, it's like one of the greatest intros in a musical to the characters since like
Oh,
West
I
Side
would
Story.
agree. Yeah, yeah,
It's just got that
absolutely.
thing where you're like, okay, I'm starting to put it together, and I didn't even know who these people are,
And
right?
by the way, you know, I mean, I really like, you know, the 1961 version of West Side Story. I thought Spielberg's version was great too, but you know, for some people, that movie is the 61 version is their favorite musical. And it's not my favorite musicals. So when people say to me, is West Side Story your favorite musical? I always say it's not even my favorite George Chakiris movie.
This is.
This is my favorite George Chakiris movie.
But yeah, right away, that just the blues of a motorcycle seat next to the blues of the truck, next to the orange of a shirt with a red tie. and these beautiful, slow, sexy, like waking up moments
Yeah.
as these people, as these, this truckers and people are bringing their wares into this carnival that's happening. And it's so cool what they did with the town, because throughout the film, you see them building the stages that are going to happen in this town square.
Right.
So shooting this film logistically must have been really hard, because they have this cafe in the middle that is completely made of huge glass panes. So you can see everything happening. So you see people walking around, building stuff, doing this, and the continuity has to be like, well, this is Friday. So we barely have a frame there. They do this incredible crane shot into the ballet studio where we meet the sisters for
Right.
the first
Right.
time,
Yeah.
which is Catherine Deneuve and her actual sister, real life sisters. I don't know if you knew this. I sure didn't know this till I was doing research on it. But the film was shot twice at the same time. It was shot in English,
Yeah. I heard that. Yeah.
and everyone online is like, it's one of the great lost things, because in America, in theaters, they played the English language version,
Hmm.
and people were like, oh, it was shown once on New York television, but no one knows where it is. And uh, somebody has dumped on the Internet Archive the last 47 minutes of a work print of the American
Oh,
version.
really?
So basically, from when the police are telling people to back up from the serial killer
Uh-huh.
street thing, and them walking down and meeting Gene Kelly, all that stuff is done in English. And it's so interesting, since it's lip sync, because the music had been recorded earlier. I was like, that's
Right.
so much to learn. Like, not only do you have to learn the script once, but now you have to do it again. And we're going to shoot
Yeah. Yeah.
now. So this giant street scene, like everyone in it is doing, English.
I would be very curious to see it, although I'm very happy with the French version and yeah.
Like the sisters, if you
Mm.
get it in English, you're getting, our mama has raised us to be polite and nice, worked for us so hard, making every sacrifice so that we should grow up with an IQ that's high. Through her life has been full of potatoes to fry. So I'd rather have a French version of all the potato, French fry, high IQ stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny because the subtitles and it's the same thing in the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, that the subtitles sometimes don't seem to be matching, like the
No.
rhythm of the, but you're totally okay with that. And I would actually, I guess now that I've seen the movie so many times, I could easily just watch the French version without subtitles, and
Yes.
I would be perfectly okay with that. But that's also when they go into the apartment and the ballet studio, and I guess I think when I first watched the film, uh and I was very compelled by all the things you've been talking about the opening and the way it was set up, and this town square and everything. But once those two sisters turn to the camera and start singing that
Yes.
incredible song with that incredible Michel Legrand swinging
Yeah. Da 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 da
Michelle,
da
yeah,
da da
like
da
then
da da da.
that was the moment I was like, holy shit. I am in for this. I'm sticking around till 5 a.m. to watch this thing.
It's so funny. Recently, I had Pavement Week on the show, because the new documentary about pavements, they also did a pavement musical in it. And I talked to the lead actor and performer of the Pavement musical, who has been in like American Idiot and, all these other musicals on Broadway. And he says it's so hard to be in a musical and to trust that the audience is going to go along with you, right? Sometimes
Right.
he's like, especially for this Pavement thing, he's like, I feel like an idiot. Like, we're not really supposed to be doing this. I don't know if it's working. And I have to all of a sudden break in the song and force this storyline into it. Again, when it's done right, you'll follow these people anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
And when they turn around and look at you and, like you said, and start performing, it's like, it doesn't matter if their lip sync is as tight as you want, or if they can't really fake playing a recorder or a trumpet. You're like, I don't care. I'm in love. I'm in love.
Right, right. None of that matters. Yeah, it's completely transformative, and then, and then after that, you know, I think maybe the next song after that is when she goes to the gallery, and they sing that ballad that actually became kind of a hit in America, with English lyrics, and the great songs just keep coming. They keep coming. They don't let up. But that's the song with the two sisters. That's the one that just kicks the whole thing off.
Yeah, and it knows when to slow down, like
Yeah.
Maxon's song in the
Mhm.
diner or the cafe. It's like, it's just a solo and it's really slow. Again, I'm always like, if I was in a musical, I want the one where somebody just kind of walks slowly and kind of just touches things, because people have never looked cooler just leaning on a countertop than in this film. Like,
Yeah,
people
right,
are
right.
leaning on things all over this film and they look glorious. It's so funny.
Yeah, everyone looks so great in this movie. And Catherine Deneuve is, you know, this guy, this sailor, his ideal, which is completely understandable. Catherine Deneuve is next level beautiful, but you know, he's not paying any attention to the waitress in the cafe, who's a fucking knockout, who's stunning.
I know.
She's got, yeah,
No, everyone, like, everyone is like, you're like, hey, the grandpa looks pretty sexy. Well,
yeah.
I'm,
Well,
you know,
but I'm actually a little disturbed by the fact that the guy who they call Grandpa looks considerably younger than I do.
yeah.
So
Well, that will never go away. I'm in the
yeah,
same boat. But yeah, and it does have, those great things in a film like this, that it doesn't matter. Like, if she's gonna pass the corner where there's a pink hydrant, and then people are just gonna, like, dance around her, lift her up, carry her
right,
across the
right.
street. The choreography works really well in it too. It
Does,
was
yeah.
Norman Maine, and he did, like, Tom Jones TV specials and Muppet Show and the Eartha Kitt
Oh,
show.
really, really?
So
Wow.
you can see taking these elements and putting it on, like, American TV in the 70s.
Yeah, and the part with where Gene Kelly's first scene where he just randomly does these choreographed dances with just people who happen to be walking by,
It's
and
so
like the two
great.
sailors, and they turn around, and then they dance in sync, and then two girls walk by, and they it's really, and it's a really fresh take on that kind of thing, which you really don't see. As great as MGM musicals are, you don't really see that kind of thing in an MGM musical usually.
No, and when Gene Kelly shows up, you're like, oh, no one moves like him. And they really
Yeah,
honored, you know, his sense of humor and just the way
yeah.
I mean, he already dances with his eyes before he starts dancing. You know what I mean? He's just
Yeah.
got the thing. And
Hmm.
so I love it that, like, by the time I saw this, I knew Gene Kelly was in it, but I can't imagine seeing this and then all of a sudden be like, what? Gene Kelly just bumped into the sister?
Yeah, I know. And I obviously wasn't paying attention because his name is in the opening credits, but
Right.
I obviously didn't pay attention because that just really threw me.
I have three really weird plot points I want to talk to you about. One is the painting that he has made of this person that he, hasn't met, but,
His
like,
ideal.
yeah, it's a pretty haunted painting. It's like,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of a dark look at a person. It doesn't, like, I look at it, I'm not like, oh, this is exuding like some sort of, like, I want to meet this person. I don't know. Do you feel that? What do you think of the painting?
Well, I hadn't thought about it that much, but it is.
That's what I'm here for.
The only thing I can say is as I think what you're saying is totally true, but it absolutely is uh you can see how it looks like Catherine
Yes.
Deneuve, but
Yes,
it
it
is
does.
it kind of just speaks well of the artist, that he has this kind of dark sensibility, even when he's painting his romantic ideal.
He's like, I'm okay with suffering a bit.
Yeah,
It's
well,
in
he's
here,
French after all.
Yes, exactly.
Uh,
The music shop owner who shows up, Simone Dame, tells this story when one of the sisters shows up, and he just kind of lays it all out on the line that basically he had a romantic past with this woman who left him. Like, she kept the twins away from him.
yeah,
She got pregnant, but he hasn't met the child. But she basically didn't want to be with him because of his last name. And that's like
yeah,
a real big plot point. Like,
yeah,
your last name is, woman, and I didn't want to be Madam Woman. And you're just like, wow, that's petty.
it's
Like,
very
that's a
petty.
bummer.
It's yeah.
Like,
I think it was. I've always thought about that it was just like something Jacques Demy just obviously thought was funny. Of
yes.
like that's what
Yes.
breaks them up is his name, and she's filled with regret about it by now. But it goes back to he's just embracing the artifice of musical comedy, because it's all just so coincidental that that she's the mother of the woman who he's talking to. Yeah, and they live in the same town, that they've never run into each other. It's you know
It's closer to Boing Boing than you think. The
yeah.
movie.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah,
people coming in and out of
yeah,
doors, like
it's
missed
yeah,
opportunities.
it's
Like,
all about the missed, especially the painter character.
yeah.
We should be happy he doesn't run into her earlier. The movie would end right there.
Yes, exactly. And the other one is Boo Boo, the
Mhm.
character Boo Boo,
Right, the
which
kid.
is the son,
Mhm,
the brother of the two
mhm,
sisters, um, from a different father, and just he's just kind of a little shit, and he's
mhm.
always kind of like being a brat, and
Right.
but they're always sending strangers to pick him
I
up.
know that's kind of dated.
Yeah, yeah. But I do like that the one sister does say, this town is filled with soldiers, sadists, and unknown painters. Was like that, like, you can't do that. Unknown painters. It was really
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always weird now when you see something like that no one would ever do in the modern, and rightfully so, would never do now.
Watching this, of course, and seeing how brilliant Gene Kelly is in it, I had to kind of go and be like, okay, well, was he working much then? Like, what happened afterwards? And it's kind of incredible how it went to, like, that's entertainment and Viva Knievel and
Mm.
Xanadu. Like,
Yeah.
somebody this brilliant,
Well, well, he was part of a thing where he was the greatest MGM musical star, not just the greatest, but the most creative and the most artistic, and the biggest creative force in MGM musicals, in terms of him directing, and not just starring, but directing and choreographing, and just an amazing artistic soul, and but then the era of MGM musicals ended, like in the mid 50s, kind of, and then his career, he was always around. You would always see him and stuff. He did a lot of variety TV, and he was he did character parts like Inherit the Wind, which he's really good in.
mm-hmm,
Um,
right,
but his heyday was over with, basically, by the 50s, and he ended up directing Hello Dolly, which I think was considered a disappointment, and it cost like an incredible amount of money to make, and then it barely made its money. So he had a very he kind of struggled in his career, and it's just one of those instances of someone who is a great artist and was a great star, and who basically is a, a, a true screen immortal, but having to do Viva Knievel, with nothing wrong with doing that, but still, it's like,
right.
this is a guy who in a right world would have just kept, like, being the creative force behind musicals that he would star in into the 60s and 70s, but it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, 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 and especially with something like Viva Knievel, it's like
Hmm.
anybody could have played that character, that
Yeah,
he
yeah.
played in that film. It wasn't like, oh, we wrote this with
Mm.
Gene Kelly in mind.
Right.
When he plays Will Atkins, it's like that we got him, we got him. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
the other thing that I always love and especially it feels like in French films with like Jacques Tati and things like that are kind of the crowd scenes, like when they finally have the carnival and there's like people in giant sun hats and
Yeah.
costumes, like weaving their way through audiences that are watching like people dribble basketballs really poorly,
Hmm.
and doing
Yeah, I
ballet.
was like, what is this? Is this the like
Yes,
the French knockoff of the Harlem
it's
Globetrotters?
so weird.
Like, the Harlem Globetrotters are a lot. You better hope. I better hope nobody sees the Harlem Globetrotters, because
Yeah.
this is not going to stand up.
No, I'm kind of always a sucker when it's like, okay, now we're going to go over here and it's a bunch of children
Mhm.
singing in a choir. And now 30 seconds later, we're over in this kind of Star Trek green and pink haired dance troupe. And now we're going over here to the motorcycle people, and having the sisters sing their songs. I just love, like, I always just think about them doing the logistics, like, okay, we need to reset, get that train of people back that are going to weave through, we're going to do it again,
Yeah,
and just like all the logistics of getting a crowd of hundreds of people. I mean, it's big.
it's big, and he's very obviously. Demi is very intent on giving you a little bit of each performance as the camera goes by. Not the camera, not just swishing past the performers, but spending a few moments on each thing that you see, whether it's the basketball players or the motorcycle, and just giving you a sense of this festival that's going on, and then when he finally ends up at the sisters, then the song they sing, that's another fucking banger.
It
You
is.
know,
It is.
I think everybody loves that first song the most, but that one to me is just as good. It's just a total soaring Michel Legrand melody.
Yeah. Yeah. And the song that follows it, where they're basically telling the guys they're not going to go off and sleep with them, always, never.
Mhm.
It's like they're like,
Yeah.
forget it. Like, what are
Hmm.
you trying to pull here?
Yeah.
It's just like this film is tonally so different than the previous one he made. And I think that's
Hmm.
really smart.
Yeah. He didn't try to repeat. He didn't do another totally sung through depressing story like he did the first time.
Yeah.
He took it to another level, and I don't think that movie had the impact that Umbrellas of Cherbourg had, but I think through the years its reputation has grown considerably, and now both of those films are considered great classics.
Yeah, they are.
There are other American in Paris references when he's dancing with the kids earlier, when we first meet him. That's kind of a riff off of an American in Paris.
Yeah, it's great when he swats the kid on the head with a newspaper and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
just hops into a convertible and drives off. You're like, you
yeah,
are the coolest
yeah,
motherfucker in the world, like Gene
yeah.
Kelly.
I know.
Like, and then he's
Yeah.
driving around. That there's that really beautiful musical montage of them weaving in like the art dealer, the music store
Mhm,
owner,
mhm.
the mother in the cafe, Gene
Right.
Kelly reading the dropped uh, overture in his car
Mhm.
while driving, and it's so technically amazing how they do that,
Yeah.
because they're staying in these things for like 12 seconds and moving
Yeah.
through.
The whole movie has sequences like that are just dazzling.
Do you have like a favorite sequence in this that you're like, this is the one I would show if I had to bring this to someone to introduce them to it?
I think uh both the scenes I mentioned with the sisters, I would say that opening song with the sisters, and I think that opening song with the sisters has kind of turned people out of the movie, because that clip is around on YouTube. I mean, I've seen people post it all the time. And then the shot of them singing, the sequence of them singing at the festival, like those to me are kind of this things I just keep coming back to, just these great songs.
Yeah.
But it's hard to narrow it down. But I would also like point anyone to what we were talking about when Gene Kelly is introduced. And if you want to tell someone about this movie and you'd be like, well, do you like Gene Kelly? Well, check this shit out.
No doubt.
Yeah. I just think the whole movie, it's like its own vibe, and it's a world unto itself. Nothing in it exists in real life, and that's the beauty of it. And it just, every time I've seen it, it just completely transforms me. And I actually, this last time I watched it, because when I chose this as a topic to talk with you about, I was like, oh great, this is my excuse to watch it again,
Right.
because it's been on the Criterion channel forever, and I always have to like make myself not watch it.
Yes.
Oh, I shouldn't watch that again. I gotta, there's so many great movies here I haven't
Right.
seen. I can't just watch the Young Girls of Rochefort again.
Right.
But this time was my excuse to, and also to watch the Umbrellas of Cherbourg again. But when I watched it this last time, the thing is I love the music in this movie so much that I've always kind of had a sense that the reason I can watch this movie anytime is because of the nonstop great Legrand music. And that's really what's great about it, or why, that's what draws me to it. But this last time I watched it, it really gave me a sense of like, no, you know what, this is a genuinely great movie. Not just because of the music, but you know what, all of the decor and the dancing and the design, that all like is Michel Legrand's music manifesting itself, visually. And so the whole movie is just and that's the sign of a great movie. It's like this last time that I watched it, it seemed greater to me than ever before, and that happens with really great movies with me.
Frank, I want to thank you for coming on the show and bringing this film to everyone's attention. I will say we might have told a little bit about the end, but we will never tell you who the serial killer is. That's for you to discover. The joy of and how little it really weighs on people after they figure it out. That's the other thing I loved. They're like, oh really? Okay. And I'm like, okay, well,
right.
Let's keep moving.
That in itself will be a 10-part true crime podcast about the serial killer.
Well, at the end of every episode, I ask the same question, but I tailor it depending on the film we're talking about. So on a scale of 2 being the lowest and 30 being the highest, how many dancers with fantastic sun hats dribbling basketballs behind you in the street as you jump into a convertible with Gene Kelly do you give the Young Girls of Rochefort from a scale of 2 dancers to 30 dancers?
Oh, come on, man. That's 30 dancers. If it's anything.
That's the answer I have here. 30 is the right answer. You're absolutely right.
I knew it.
Thank you so much, Frank. It was so great to meet you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the show. It was a blast.
Thank you for listening to Revolutions Per Movie. We release new episodes every Thursday on your favorite podcast app and additional bonus episodes every Sunday on our Patreon. The show is a completely independent affair, so the best way to support the show is through our Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionspermovie, where you can get weekly bonus episodes and shows, exclusive limited edition flexi discs and records and CDs featuring guests that have appeared on the show, and other exclusive goods sent to you just for joining. You can follow us on social media at Revolutions Per Movie and also find out more information about our various guests in the episode show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye!